And we are live and back in our usual setup. Hello, all you BC WrestlePod nerds out there, and welcome to the third. I almost said second, but this is the third. Welcome to the third review of WrestleMania 41 Hell Week. This time brought to you by the Wrestle Watch crew, your WWE pay-per-view / PLE review team here at the BC WrestlePod YouTube, Twitch, conglomeration, network, syndicate, podcasting thing we do every single day of the week, except Thursdays, because forget about Thursdays, except for this Thursday. I am your host, Mikey, and joining me this evening, of course, is you saw his beautiful face during both nights of night 1 and night 2 watch-alongs for WrestleMania, in Mr. Kilt Man, holding it down for representing the Dual Dynasty WWE crew. How you doing today?
I could use a nap, a beer, and more wrestling.
That is very true. We will be discussing all the things that was the best night of WrestleMania. I'm just kidding. Who are we kidding?
I'm kind of on there. It almost was the best night of wrestling.
We'll talk about night 1 because I have some personal feelings. But of course, enacting that he must show up once in a while due to his legend, contract here at BC WrestlePod is the return of Mr. Ludwig Kaiserroll himself. Jesse, I've missed you.
I'm happy to be here. I've missed you guys too. I'm thrilled that I'm on a Legends contract now too.
We had to invoke and be like, all right, he needs to make his appearance right now. So we gonna do it. Like Joe Hendry, say his name and he will appear because we believe in Jesse. Oh man, I can't wait to talk about that night too. But the three of us are here this evening to cover WrestleMania 41, specifically night 1, which was the Saturday portion of the WrestleMania festivities. And we're gonna have an interesting conversation. I'm gonna be full transparent, you two. I've watched a lot of wrestling over the last 5 days that spans a whole bunch of brands, but specifically talking about the 3 WWE related ones that happened this weekend. I am confident in saying this, and I will go into full detail at the end of this. Night 1 was at the bottom of my list between night 1, night 2, and Stand and Deliver for NXT.
Okay.
So there were some great moments of night 1, but I felt that this was what happened when you realized the group project was due the night before, and you're like, oh crap, we have a WrestleMania. So
that was the whole buildup, I feel. And just to address the comment in the chat, Anita, we'll get to that match at the end of night 1.
Yes, we will talk about that was cinema, which was the strongest thing to come out of night 1, especially when you combine it with what happened last night on the Raw after Mania, which we'll touch upon at the very end of this. But before we get into the dissection of all of this, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube or follow us on the Twitch, if you like what you see here, or even if you don't, that's okay. We love you either way. We still want to hear from you regardless. You can follow us, hit that bell notification, subscribe, as the kids say, to both the Twitch and the YouTube. Or if that is not your flavor, then you can totally see the extra goodness that goes on across all the social media side. Look us up at BC WrestlePod. We're pretty much anywhere and everywhere. So literally, pick your favorite app that you use, your social media app. We're pretty much there. And
even MySpace.
Even MySpace, which, stay tuned for that link.
We actually I'm re-signing up for MySpace now. MySpace.
Oh my goodness. Hey, you know what? We're gonna revisit that. We'll have a conversation about if we want to go on MySpace, because I already have my top friend requests ready. I have my top friends.
You got your top 8? I know how I have my top 8.
You could tell that we were people of a certain age and generation, but that's regardless the point. On the social medias, you might ask, what can you find? Well, you can totally find clips that are totally not going to come and bite us in the butt later as we get famous and people will try to use them to cancel us. We've made it on the internet when people try to cancel you, so I cannot wait for all of that. Also, we do report cards for all of the pay-per-views and the weekly shows, so literally, our report cards are the physical embodiment of, long story short, if you don't have time to watch the episodes, you can look at our report cards and our quick thoughts about everything, and then, comment on why we're right or we're totally wrong. So that is Okay. So, with all that out of the way, let's get into it. Night one of WrestleMania coming to us live from the Allegiant Stadium, the Raiders Stadium for you NFL peoples out there in Las Vegas. And let's just jump into it because we kick things off with our opening match, which is for the World Heavyweight Championship. This is El Campeón, the champion, the Ring General, Gunther, taking on the challenger and the winner of the men's Royal Rumble from earlier this year in main event, Jey Uso. Hashtag Team Yeet. So, we knew that this was going to open WrestleMania a couple days leading into this, which on the one hand, I was surprised, but also given what was on the rest of the card, I was like, not really surprised. But honestly, I personally thought that this was a great moment. Jey got his WrestleMania moment as a single star. He got to be able to avenge Jimmy, which we kind of gone back and forth on the WWE review, whether Jimmy was necessarily needed for this whole entire feud. I think the consensus is, I think without Jimmy, this probably wouldn't make me not care about this match as much as, listen, it was a rough 10-week build. I'm going to be completely honest.
No, I fully agree. And it was addressed in Raw after, and we'll get into that. But I do think that what was addressed during Raw was actually another big factor because you had less polarization and more Jimmy Solo or Jey Solo kind of floating in his own head. And I think that with the Jimmy bloody match, that actually did help propel the story some because it got him locked in. It got him going from being yeet all the time and, a happy-go-lucky Jey to this serious, I'm coming for you. It dropped the usual persona that you see of Jey, which is, not really the party animal per se, but it's like the jovial aspect to the, I'm about business and I'm about to take you down. And was it so good?
So, Jesse, what did you think about this opening match?
I have gone on record saying I have never been sold on Jey. I don't like the moniker main event Jey Uso because he didn't main event here again. He's never delivered on a main event, and I don't like being told what I should think of people. So giving somebody the moniker like that is like, I'm a natural contrarian. So no, he's not a main eventer to me. And after this match, I'm still not sold on Jey Uso. Like I'm glad he got his moment. It was a nice WrestleMania moment for him and for his family, for Rikishi especially because I know he was brought to tears by this, which is fantastic. See one of his sons win the world title. The only reason I like this is because I want to see a feud between Jey and Sammy come out of it and let Sammy get some world title gold. That's where I want to see this wind up. And I don't like to make it seem like I'm happy Jey's a transitional champion, but I kind of am because I don't think that he should hold it for very long. He should have a run with it, but I don't think he should go on one of these 2-year-long escapades like his they say cousin, but it's actually his uncle did. Because I don't think it warrants it. And I thought the ending of this match was really weak. Like that he did Gunther's sleeper, a move he's never done before. First time he does it, and Gunther taps out in like 12 seconds. It didn't make sense to me.
So, okay,
hold on. This is where JDL needs to come in and say it's because Jesse doesn't like fun. So, okay, guilty. I don't like fun. But this was...
No, okay.
The match was a weak ending to me.
So, let's bring out that ending because that seems to be a good polarizing point that a lot of people are pointing out about this match. So people are like, Gunther shouldn't tapped out. Why is Jey doing that? Gunther should not have tapped to a move that he applies to his opponents. He should know how to get out of it. And to a certain extent, that's true. However, people seem to forget that this isn't the first time that Gunther, since being in WWE, has tapped out to a sleeper chokehold like that. This is only the second time this has happened. The first time it happened was way back for NXT TakeOver 36 when we were towards the end of the Black and Gold era, because at that time, before he was known as Gunther, he came to the United States and he was still underneath the moniker of Volta. So it was Valta for the NXT UK Championship. He was defending that title against the Mad Dragon himself of Ilya Dragunov. And so Ilya did the same thing. He won the match by applying that sleeper choke to Gunther, and Gunther did tap in the same amount of time. Now, it was more believable with Ilya because, let's be honest, this is Ilya Dragunov. The man believes that wrestling is real, and he is out here a bloody mess after every single match he has. I do agree, and I'm not knocking this because we even talked about this, Kilt, that we're all okay with Jay being a transitional champion. He's going to hold it for a couple of months, but I don't see him walking past SummerSlam, the latest, with this championship. I don't think he's walking out of the summer because still a world heavyweight champion. And I'm kind of here for Jesse, what you said, for a Sami Zayn world title run agenda. Like, that's what I want to see too. But I think this was smart to open it up because they got the nice moment. And then the rest of the night was rough go because there were some talented people. But I have a bone to pick with night one crowd because I don't know what y'all were doing the whole entire night. Like, after that match, I'm like,
they were asleep till the main event.
I was like, what happened, you guys? Like, was it just a long day where a lot of you had stand and deliver earlier in the day? Like, is that why we didn't? The crowd was dead here. I don't know what happened between night one and night two, but night one's crowd, y'all disappointed me, but we'll talk about you in a little bit. But Jay Uso, Mr. Juicy Usi, as his Instagram handle will like you to tell, he walks out of this. He has a moment with Jimmy in the ring afterwards. They hug, they celebrate. Also, Jay completes the part 2 of the iconic press conference things because he also had some libations before going on to the press conference again for the second time. This time it was just him because, lest we forget, it was because of that train wreck of the roadblock press conference with him and Cody where they were a little bit buzzed. And that is where we got the yeet from too, which was crazy. So we move on from this match into this next one. I'm going to say it. I'm going to continue to say it. The wrong main roster tag team division had a match at Mania this past weekend. The SmackDown tag team division should have been here, but you know what?
I agree.
I'm not mad at these two. I'm just mad that the only real build that we had to this was 2 weeks. We had a championship match. New Day caused a DQ for War Raiders to retain the championships. And then we were told, hey, they're going to get a rematch at Mania. I'm like, excuse me? First of all, shout out to the New Day, though, because they tapped into their inner Giant Gonzalez if he was into My Little Pony with their ring gear coming down the ramp. Oh, War Raiders. I know that Clash of Clans paycheck must have been okay, but like, y'all, those costumes were too cartoony. And I'm just like,
They
I
were
can't take
awful.
I cannot take you seriously anymore. I'm sorry.
I honestly know it was a sponsorship thing. It was part of creative trying to overdo the sponsorships, and they should have just let them. It would have been better if it was Raid Shadow Legends. Like, seriously, it was. I saw what they tried to do. They shouldn't have done it.
Or at least figured out a different sponsorship, because spoiler alert, night 2, we got the right video game sponsorship for Drew's entrance and his ring gear coming out looking like the character from the upcoming Doom game. I'm like,
dude, I'm still pissed he didn't get to use that shield.
The shield would have been great in that street fight. But Drew McIntyre, we'll talk about you tomorrow because you also had the most iconic thing happen where you literally tweeted again during your match at Mania.
Bored at work again. Yeah, I love that.
No bored at
Honestly,
work.
As strange as the outfits were and as bad as the Clash of Clans stuff was for the War Raiders, I thought the match was really good.
I did like the match too, but again, the crowd did no favors to either team, especially when Ivar tried to get them to do the war chant and they weren't just complying. I'm like, y'all suck. I'm sorry.
They were so dead at that point. I'm like, I understand they've been partying since Friday, but it's like, dude, you should have paced yourselves. This is WrestleMania. You gotta keep up. It's like it was not one of the bathroom break matches, but it felt like that if you were in the stadium. I enjoyed it. I don't like New Day, but that's because I don't like the heel direction they're taking. That's just me. But yeah, it was a good match all in all. Just that crowd was terrible.
Which is
I'm
really
not.
sad.
After this match, I got to the point where it's like I'm not letting the crowd dictate whether or not I'm enjoying the match. I like this match. I knew the ending we were gonna get. I was kind of happy at how we got it because it was definitely like a cheap sneak ending, which we're expecting with this heel run. But if this is leading us to a Big E as like the salvation for them, if he does eventually come back to in ring, I'm okay with it. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. I was also happy to have the War Raiders have a WrestleMania match that wasn't like the equivalent of a 0 hour match or something like that.
Right, because lest we forget, not last year, but the year before, they were just now. Granted, that 4-way exhibition tag team match was pretty good. I like that. That was pretty solid. But they actually get a championship match, which is great. And both of them are healthy too, because now one of them was out, then both of them were out. I'm just like, these boys can't catch a break.
No, and they're too talented to be held in like the comedy spot that they were for a while on Raw.
Before he got hurt, Ivar was killing it in NXT when he went
Oh
over
my
there for a
God.
little bit. I was so bummed we didn't get that North American Championship match. I was like, no, injury, darn it. I'm hoping that we can add some heat back to the New Day, because once they turned heel, I'm like, oh, this is amazing. This is great. And then it kind of went, I was like, they're just not being booked properly. So now them as champs, heel champions, I think is going to be great. And we kind of saw a little bit of that Monday night after Raw, like Raw after Mania. But again, I would agree with you, Jesse. I was like, all right, this crowd's not going to help me. So I'm going to be my own crowd and I'm going to hype myself up for the rest of these matches because y'all failed. But that's what happens when you only let people who can afford $500 nosebleeds into your event. I'm just saying, that's a whole nother podcast. I'm like, I'm not paying $500 WWE for nosebleeds. That's wild. That was wild to me. Anyways, we move on from this match to our third match of the evening, which was Proceed with Caution, Naomi, taking on A Storm Is Coming in Jade Cargill. The crew is a little divided on this because some of us said that this would have been a good match for the SmackDown go home. And I am of the camp, and some other people believe that these two women deserve the spot at Mania. I really like this match. I really, really did. I think it was a match that was there to accomplish two things. One, it was to give Jade a singles match where she ended up winning the match, but it also continues to give us the like final point of, oh, okay, so this is how Naomi's presentation is going to be from here on out. We were slow in getting these promos. She's been changing her looks, and now she got a whole new theme entrance, which I dig, by the way. And if she's coming out to rippable Proceed with Caution tape every single time, you can count me in. I'm not even going to lie. I really like this match. I really did. I don't care what nobody says. I'm biased, but I really, really love this match. Jesse, I'm going to come to you first. What did you think of Jade versus?
I thought you didn't care what anyone said.
Well,
You just said that.
I don't care what anyone. I don't care what
Mikey, I'm
people
just
say
picking on you.
negatively. I know. You have to. It's been a while. We need this banter back.
I got to catch up for lost time. So
Exactly.
I did not like this match. I texted JVL as I was watching because I had to wind up watching it later, and I didn't know where he was. I'm still not sold on Jade, and I haven't been since they came over. They're getting better. They've certainly improved. Like if you look at her in-ring work for this match compared to last year's Mania match, there's a marked improvement. But I still don't think she's WrestleMania ready.
That is
I
very
think
fair.
that there's a lot of stalling in her matches because she doesn't know what to do next because she's not confident in her own moveset and her skill set.
That is very true. And I won't disagree.
It's hard to do that as somebody who's a power wrestler because you need to be able to dictate what's going on next. You can't wait on your opponent who's supposed to be taking these big, hard, heavy moves, and then to sell it, they need the time to recover. You can't wait for them to tell you what to do next. And I'm seeing a lot of that. It's like WCW, the Giant, like 95 to 97. That's what I'm getting with her, which is, Big Show wanted to have a fantastic career. And I think Jade will too, but I don't think she's there yet. And I just, again, I'm not sold on her.
You know what? That's very fair. And I believe I've even said this when the match was over too, that Naomi is a ring general now. I consider her that because she did a lot of the leading in this match for Jade to get her from spot to spot. Like, let's put some respect on Naomi's name. Love her to death.
Oh,
Kilt,
she's Naomi absolutely deserves her
yeah,
flowers.
yeah. What you had some thoughts during the watch along. So now that you've processed it, how did you feel about Jade and Naomi's match?
Oh god, it was a good match. I won't lie. I meant to comment during the match that I really wasn't like I didn't have a stake in this. For me, it was it was definitely it was a cool match to watch. I did enjoy it. It probably could have gone on a little longer, because it was better than the other one-on-one match that really didn't have any stakes in it from night 2. But really, honestly, that's all I got. Like it was good. I enjoyed myself. I'm looking forward to Jade going bigger and better, and Naomi continuing down this proceed with caution heel turn. That looks cool. But other than that, there was a lot of booty. I think that's what part of my feelings were at the time was, God damn, that was a lot of ass.
If we're going to talk about that, I felt so concerned for Jade because the amount of time she was fixing her top, like, bro, you've got to get it together.
The titty was about to pop out.
Like they had a cutaway when she was walking up the ramp because like we almost had
got to start picking some more durable, I guess I'd say, outfits because it's
we almost had a Janet Jackson at the Super Bowl situation.
We're one like Oklahoma Slam away from a situation like that.
Exactly. Like this year has not been kind to the women's roster on main roster. Lest we forget, remember what happened to Lyra during the Royal Rumble? She literally had to go off. The ref had to buckle her back in because it came undone. I'm like, no! Oh, it was so rough. But again, I'm here for Crash Out Naomi. As I have called her. I'm excited for her to see what happens next. And for Jade too. So I want to see Jade continuing to improve. And I want to see Naomi continue to be crazy because it's great. This woke me up for sure. The only big problem I had is I wish I got like a couple more minutes from it. But this was for the United States Championship, Mr. L.A. Knight.
Yeah.
Defending his title, the United States Championship against the Samoan werewolf, Jacob Fatu. This was fun. I had a fun time watching this match. I really, really did. I think I popped the loudest when Jacob Fatu went for a moonsault and then got countered into LA Knight's BFT mid-air.
That was amazing.
Crazy.
That was amazing.
That spot was crazy. This was a fun match, and thankfully I got it right. But Jacob Fatu is your new United States champion.
Oh God, yes.
So I'm such a stan for LA Knight that I knew he was going to lose this match, but I wasn't happy about it. However, this match was so good that I didn't mind because this means LA Knight can go on to do other things. Like, let's get him in the world title picture. He has been nothing but over since he cast off that Max Dupree stuff. Get him in the world title picture. Make him his next feud against Jay. Get him some momentum behind there. And then Jacob holding the U.S. title does nothing but elevate it. It's not going to somebody like and. Man, I don't know how you're feeling, but it's not going back to Logan Paul. We don't need to do that experiment again. And it's elevating the title, and I'm so happy about it. And this was my match of the night. And I know, especially with the whole cinema that was at the end of the night, this was my match of the night.
I agree. I fully agree. And we said this during the watch along. This, and I think I said this prior. This will only elevate both wrestlers. LA Knight will go to the main card's title runs for either world champion or heavyweight champion or whichever championship they decide to throw in there after they're done with this Cena story. LA Knight's being elevated. Jacob, I mentioned this because this is how I saw it. This was Jacob's Eddie Guerrero moment when Eddie won his championship. This is what I think it is. This is the start of his Eddie Guerrero. This is an Eddie Guerrero moment for him because he's worked hard. He's fought through everything that he's had to do. He's had he got out of jail and realized wrestling is where he should be because this is going to help him be a better person, a better father, a better family person, and he's done that. He's taken leaps and bounds, and you see like some of the behind the scenes stuff where he helped Lex Luger get into the car and put his wheelchair away. You see him with the fans. You see him when he met the Boogeyman and he started.
He was a whole entire fan, and I loved it.
And I love Jacob. Like, I'll pull out Solo on this. I love you, Jacob. But it is nothing but promise for these two. They did an amazing match that put a lot of I focused on this match, and which is for me, I have my attention span goes everywhere. As soon as I hear one thing out of my ear, I go, hmm? But this match was so engaging. It was so entertaining. It was so good. I would have loved this to either open and then Jay and Gunther close the show, and then they and then had the fatal three-way cinema the next night or something else. But this was amazing. It's obviously it's all across the board. This elevates both guys. It shows how good they are and how good that they'll fight for their opportunities. Granted, who knows how soon they'll take the championship off of Jacob, but he will have it for at least the rest of the year.
I think what needs to be stated about this match too was the fact that it was a clean ending. It wasn't a schmaz ending. We didn't have solo interference. We didn't have Tamatanga. We didn't have Bachaloa. Nothing like that came in. It was just they let him do his job, and he was amazing.
Exactly. There was
what are you giggling at now, Mikey?
Because I heard what you said, and it connected in my brain. I was like, that's crazy.
there was no bloodline pull. There was no tricks that they were trying to do.
Wish interference.
Exactly. And then you see at the end, I think it was Sika came out, or it was Haku. It was Haku came out.
Haku, yeah.
Yeah, and to congratulate him on the side of the ring. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And it's like, I loved every single moment of this. And I'm hoping for more.
I agree. And I think the craziest part is because his commentary reminded me, I'm like, oh my gosh, they're absolutely right. Jacob hasn't even been on the roster for a whole entire year yet. And this is how over he is. It's crazy how over he is with the fan base.
This is one of those matches that you couldn't lose with a winner. Like if LA Knight retained, great, we keep this feud going. Everybody loves LA Knight. Jacob wins, great. Everybody loves Jacob too. You don't get this very often where it's set up story-wise to be a heel versus face, but in the fans' minds, it's really face versus face.
Honestly, it really is. And to me, I agree with both of you in the sense that this is probably my favorite match of night one, only because this felt like what a WrestleMania match needs to be. Just great action, full of good chemistry with, who's in the ring, and just pure spectacle. Again, we talked about the, moonsault into the BFT was a crazy spot, but it was entertaining. And to me, this felt the most WrestleMania match of the whole entire night one. When we get to the main event, it was cinema, but it was more so, and I'll talk about it more in detail. To me, it was cool, but that was more to set up what we saw on Monday Night Raw yesterday of what transpired with all of that. But hands down, this was my favorite match of night one. This was fantastic. Both men did great. I want to see Jacob go on an Umaga run through the mid-card division, just decimate everybody in his path. And I want to see LA Knight be able to go after, the main card championships, the main championships, whether it be, the world's heavyweight or the undisputed WWE championship. This was a fantastic match. Both of these men did fantastic. Good job all around to LA and to Jacob. No notes. This was okay. I want to start off with the positives. I'm happy for Rey Fenix that he got to have a WrestleMania match, even if he was a replacement for Mysterio, who got injured the night before on SmackDown. I also got a cheap pop out of El Grande Americano Latte's entrance because it was so over the top and campy stupid that I was here for it. That is all I have to say. However, also, Mr. Grande Americano Latte, though, that reverse 450 like splash / senton was a thing of beauty. That was crazy.
He crushed Ray. He landed with a crunch.
He overshot it for sure, but
he did. But he almost went like that.
It felt like when Matt Hardy talks about Jeff Swantons anymore. When they first started, they were Swantons, and now they're croutons because he just crunches right on his opponents.
Ooh, before we continue though, I gotta change something. So bear with me because as you can tell, I am changing into some different assets really quickly because this is gonna be an entertaining bit for sure. Because we have a fourth who is with us this evening. Let me pull him in. Professor!
We didn't have to call you this time.
I know.
And you're still muted.
And you're muted. Hey, you know what? It's not a review if we're having issues with without having issues with technology.
You're muted.
Hang on, I will unmute you myself. Oh, no, never mind. They chose to mute themselves, so I have no power.
Yeah, you know what's funny is I was joking about calling him to come in.
Get him on.
I was so good. Oh, I wanted to do it, but I thankfully.
Right. So while the professor gets his audio fixture getting together,
There's always something. There's always something.
There you go.
There's always something.
Jesus.
Hi, Professor.
No, I'm the kilt man.
No, actually, I am someone different.
Once again, Professor.
No, I'm Skeletor.
No, we're gonna talk about Botox Skeletor in a little bit, okay?
Oh, it's gonna happen.
Hey, Mikey, I think we're about running at capacity for bald-headed, ginger-bearded men on this stream.
Hey, you know what, Professor? Professor decided to.
I am brown and it's almost like salt and pepper, except it's more like brown sugar. And
listen, you can complain to your lighting all you want. I'm seeing ginger.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that it's a good thing that you're counting me as ginger. I don't mind that. I like that because I refer
Join the soulless brethren, please.
I'm happy to have you here, Professor. You chose to be a Simon Miller and not a Ricochet.
Oh, there it is. Why, thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that reference.
In a world of ricochets, be a Simon Miller.
Are we still talking about this one, or do we move on?
Yeah, we just started talking.
We just started.
Go for it.
Grande Americano Latte versus Rey Fenix.
So Mikey did his intro. I mean, I suppose I'll jump in here. I loved not Chad Gable's entrance with the mariachi and everything. It was so
stupid.
Over the top, campy, and beautiful. And I actually really liked this match. I think my favorite was the super cheap pop they did, calling it or saying he's hailing from the Gulf of America, which is, that whole political landscape we don't want to get into on here, but it was such a cheap pop that it made me laugh. And the match was really good. It was a very solid match. It could have gone a little longer, honestly.
You could definitely tell that this
Professor, you're muted again.
Yeah. No, I just didn't want to interrupt you. That's what I was going to say. I could have watched this for another 5 minutes or so. I thought this was great. Yeah. I think that I don't want to say it was thrown together because that's not what I mean. They're professionals. They know what they're doing. They could have gone a little longer here. I think they didn't want to. I think they wanted to keep it a tight, let's not make any room for mistakes type of thing. Not Chad Gable's doing some wild stuff. And it just seems like Grande Americano has given not Chad Gable an opportunity to take risks in a similar Kurt Angle and TNA kind of way, right? Like he's doing crazier things.
No, we're not getting Perk Gable.
No, the invincible Perk Gable. But I really wanted to see if they were going to pull the trigger on Fenix doing it. Or part of me was like, that would have been incredible. You got called up 10 days later, you're at WrestleMania Night 1, and you get a chance to beat Grande Americano. That would have pulled the rug out to, I mean, not that there weren't a lot of rugs being pulled. I thought this was great. I thought not Chad Gable held their own really, really well here.
Rey Fenix has had a really fun run. You debuted 3 weeks ago, and then now with less than 3 weeks on the roster, you're already having a match at Mania. That's crazy. I feel bad for Rey Mysterio, but you know what? Rey Fenix got the spot, and then Dragon Lee's over here looking sad in the corner somewhere.
And I will say this helped solidify something for me that you've all been telling me, but I haven't seen it because I've not been able to watch like them side by side or matches compared to each other. They say Penta's like when he built up when he debuted, he's the greatest switch blade break. I think Ray's better, and you guys are all right. He performs better in the ring.
And they're a great tag team. When they tag up, they do wild shit together. Like, it's incredible. But I think Penta's poise and sort of character in the ring is one thing. Fenix, just pure technical. I can chain these together fluidly, is just unmatched.
Yeah, Penta's got a better look. I will certainly agree to that. But I think Ray's a better in-ring worker.
I have to agree. And then when you put them together, watch out. They are unstoppable. I love them so much. You know what? This was fun. And I had such a great time watching this match. I really did. Kiltman, did you have any thoughts about this match?
Let's see. We've already discussed it. We're all upset it wasn't Rey Mysterio. But we're happy it was Rey Fenix. I do want to talk about the entrance for a second because I thought it was just B-roll. I thought it was just it was in sepia. What do you expect me to think?
They got
it was
entire filter.
That's what made me laugh because it was the standard of the Mexican movie filter. Like every Mexican movie shot by an American director has this sepia tint because Mexico's nothing but sand and orange, right?
Exactly.
Doritos dust on everything.
I'm literally because I wasn't paying attention.
I mean, they should have done bad dubbing and subtitles and everything and just gone full like.
They could have gone. They could have gone two ways. They did. Number one was the way they did it with the in sepia film or whatever, like old like Spanish movies, or they could have. And John will Professor, you get a kick out of this. They could have had the slow pan and the slow like Johnny Mundo with the wind to slow down and played some angelic music like La Rosa de la Guadalupe, like telenovela style. But having a full-on mariachi, but having a full-on like old Spanish Hollywood like mariachi entrance made me die. I was like, whose quince did we walk into? Like, what is happening? That's the next thing. He gonna have.
It's at a hotel.
The stage was a hotel.
Because technically it was. That was the entrance theme. It was the hotel. I want to know how much those seats on that set cost. Probably not cheap.
So what's next? Are we going to go full into it and have Ivy now come and the quinceañera dress next?
Oh my God, please.
I'm going to be
Honey
completely
Mustard's sister
honest.
come out in a quince dress?
As
do all the rituals?
That would be, but that would be so amazing. I'm not even going to lie.
What's it? So if there's the,
I feel like that would be on the line of racist. Like
there's the
That's
doll.
what I'm saying. It would be very. Absolutely. It would be
doll, the
problematic.
pink
it's
shoe.
super cultural appropriation.
I haven't been doing quince in a long time. There's the doll, the pink shoe, the father-daughter dance, the rose. There's a lot of ritual in there.
I think we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, Monkey. You want to rope us back into the next match?
Yeah, but that's how fun this match was. And sometimes WrestleMania matches need to be fun, and this was fun. But it also was a great showing from actually both of them, both Rey Fenix and El Grande Americano Latte. This was great. Okay, let's get into this. This is everybody.
No.
Ooh, this one's gonna be spicy to talk about.
Me
Kilt,
first.
Go, Kilt, go.
Now, my favorite part of this match was Professor showing up and going, "I'm Botox Skeletor" the entire time and doing the voice. That was my favorite part. I shit you not. That's what made this match bearable for me.
Really? Me trolling it made it bearable?
Oh my God, yes. I
Okay,
did not.
so-
I was not behind this match at all because it just felt, here you go.
So before I let anybody else talk, I do want. So this is for the WWE Women's Championship. So this is Tiffany Stratton, Tiffy time, defending her title against the Women's 2025 Royal Rumble winner in Charlotte Flair. This is the first time I have ever said this in the 2.5 years that we have done BC WrestlePod, or me as a wrestling fan. Normally, I can look past some of a not so great build if the match itself does deliver. The story completely obliterated, leading into this match, completely obliterated any chance of me wanting to really see this match. And then, like, the 5% of that I had left in my soul within the first 5 minutes kind of went completely away. I don't know how to properly describe it into words, because surprise to me, and somebody's going to say something different when I say this right now, but I'm not on the bandwagon of, oh, this is all Charlotte's fault, because I think both of them have fumbled the ball leading into this match. Charlotte has gone on record to say that, when she came back, she wanted to be more of a face this time around, because we've only seen her be this heel. We've only seen her get her way to be in these championship matches. And I wasn't as upset when she won the Rumble. However, because the crowd was so against her upon her return when she came back, then Creative decided, okay, so face Charlotte or tweener Charlotte's not going to happen, so we need to make her be the bad guy. And heel Charlotte is fine. I think she works better as a heel, but I kind of wanted to see her as a face. Now, where it truly went off the rails for me is that we spent 3 weeks with Charlotte going to Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, getting in the face of all the women's champions there, saying, I might choose you, but I'll let you know very soon. Only for her to go to SmackDown and attack Tiffany and be like, I choose you as my opponent. Cool. Then we got the first red flag, which was that side-by-side sit-down interview. Oh my gosh, it was bad. Tiffany and Charlotte did so bad in that one. And then 2 weeks later, the next 2 weeks, they were just brawling with each other. I'm like, that is how the rest of this feud should have went. Them on-sighting each other every single time. But what broke the camel's back leading into this match was that infamous Chicago, Illinois promo battle in the ring. Poor Wade Barrett had to sit there as both Charlotte and Tiffany went off script, and it went so far left that I got secondhand embarrassment from watching it. And it was so rough.
But like we talked about at the review, that's the thing that all of a sudden made us interested. That it was so off the rails. That it was so, what are they doing? We finally saw glimpses of that frustration and anger that they had with each other, or whatever it was, whatever frustration with the build it might have been, whatever it other was. And Tiffany cooks her in that promo. Charlotte doesn't know what to do. Barrett can't save it. And at that point, it's like, well, wait, what's going on over there? And if that's what you're leaning on to sell a story, not a good sign.
Again, this is the second example of what happens when you have 10 weeks to build a feud. We talked a little bit about it with Jay and Gunther. Like, it wasn't until the last 3 weeks leading into Mania where the story took a turn for me to care. Creative and Tiffany and Charlotte, everybody's at fault for this one because they destroyed any interest that I had for this match. And I just picked Tiffany because I feel I've only picked Tiffany to win in the predictions, because if she lost this match, it would be so much work she would need to do to climb back up. Like, this has not been a great story. This has not been a great feud for either one of them. Now, as far as the match goes, I think it would be remiss to say that both of them had receipts for each other, because there were a lot of points where both of them were working stiff and really hitting each other like harder than they should have. I'm like, oh, okay, so y'all ain't about that. Y'all ain't cool with each other still. I'm like, it's not to the level of Becky and Charlotte yet, where we're about to have a fist fight backstage. But oh man, this was a rough go. I did like points of this match. Like I'm gonna be honest, the last like 6 or 7 minutes of this match, it was actually pretty good. And that's because they just said, puck it, and they threw everything in, and we just went there. I'm happy that Tiffany won, but everybody creative did no service to Tiffany and Charlotte with this one. And then their own choices they made in this feud also did not help them or their opponent in any single way. This was this is going to be looked at as like, this is an example of how not to build a WrestleMania match, which makes me sad, but that is a fact. Sorry, I talked a lot. Jesse, I'm going to come to you because I know you got thoughts and feelings about this.
Yeah, and none of them are good. They had the right person win. That was about the only positive. There's a difference between giving receipts and taking liberties, and in my opinion, Charlotte, who is the Skeletor grandmother, so we know this, but definitely the much more experienced one was taking way too many liberties, and I think she's starting to punch above her weight, her class when it comes to that, because it's almost like she goes in with the mindset of, well, I can actually do a close fist punch and hit you in the mouth because I'm Charlotte Flair and I'm untouchable, and that's not the case. It's getting to the point where she's getting X-Pac heat and nobody wants her there. Heel Charlotte works. This level of heel Charlotte, nobody wants to see. Nobody cares. The feud can boil down to, oh, well, I don't like that my granddaughter's prettier than me and has the belt that I want now. That's it. That's the feud. That's what we're going for a WrestleMania match. I didn't like this at all. I'm glad Tiffany won. I'm glad Tiffany had a WrestleMania moment. She certainly earned it and deserved it, but I could have done without this. There was one of those stupid meme videos I saw a while ago, and it was like a guy goes into the kitchen, grabs something out of the fridge, and two kids run out like he can't have a snack alone, and he goes, man, I can't have shit in this house. That's Charlotte whenever a title comes up. As soon as the title comes up, boom, there's Charlotte. She needs to have a try. And I'm tired of it.
So here's where I would have been more interested. And again, we can play a what if game all day long until the cows come home. But I feel that whoever was in charge of creating this storyline and this feud for these two, I feel like picked the wrong thing. What this should have been is because even before her return, Tiffany has been compared to Charlotte in terms of like early Charlotte moveset, her looks, her character, all that stuff. What would have been a cool story is for Charlotte to still win the Rumble or the Elimination Chamber. Actually could have been better because then it's a shorter time frame between that and Mania, where the feud should have been focused on Charlotte being the blueprint and saying to Tiffany that she's just a carbon copy, and then having Tiffany having to prove herself that, you know, you may be the blueprint, but I'm version 2.0, and I'm going to beat you and retain this championship at Mania and show you that, you know, I'm not just a copy and paste of you. I am Tiffany, Mother Tuckin Stratton, and have her win that way. That I would have been more interested as a feud. But we didn't even get that. There was no through line of why they were feuding. It was mostly just because Charlotte picked her to wrestle her at Mania. That is literally how we started with this feud. And then we lost the plot within the next week. So I blame everybody in this one. This was a rough one to go. I am happy that Tiffany won, and she has all her teeth because it looked like something got chipped or broken by the end of it. I was like, oh God, she lost a tooth, you guys.
I think it was on somewhere in the middle where Charlotte throws her down to the ground and Tiffany oversells it. And that's where I think the first instance was. And then there was another right after Charlotte steals Stephanie Vacquer's move. There's an exchange.
Oh, that made me mad.
I was like,
Adolfo was hot. He was
We all were, because we just saw Stephanie at Stand and Deliver do that multiple times. Booker T, also, you're wild for that. I was like,
there's an exchange somewhere in there that it looks like they were just throwing him stiff and it got her.
Before we get into that, it's just. The move makes no sense for Charlotte. Like Stephanie Vacquier is blessed with a great backside. You're getting it was Charlotte. Okay, great. We got hit with a long back. This is the long back attack.
The long back.
Oh man,
that's a meme and a half now.
I have no meat back there until we meet again.
Thank you.
I think. Everyone is pretty much agreeing throughout the internet and reviews and other stuff like this that the build was trash, all that other stuff. The second half of this, they're actually calling spots. You can see them doing it. Like, they're working together in the second half of this. The first half of this, they are crazy stiff. And who knows why, if they wanted to make it look that way, if that was a choice. But it just... And I kind of agree with Jesse. It's not unsafe. It's just hard to disassociate and watch, right? There's a part of me that once I'm worried about the safety of the performer, you've taken me out of it a little bit. And I think they kind of fell victim to that the first half of this, where it was like, oh, is this a shoot? Are they hurting each other? What are they doing? Again, and I'm not defending either of them. Both of them are professionals. Both of them know what they're doing. They let this get off the rails, and then they assumed that we would just go along with it. And I think that's what most of the fandom is responding to. It's just sort of like, here, we did this. You're going to take it, aren't you? It's like, well, what if I don't want to take it? What if I want it? And I think what's hard is the second half of this, you see the potential of what this could have been, because they actually do work really well together the second half of this. But I do agree with what Jesse said. I had no reason to care. And if you're just trying to hurt each other, why are we
I'm watching this?
Yeah, what's the point of this? What's the story to this? What this is? I do agree that I do think it's funny that it's sort of grandma's getting her title back, which is hysterical to say.
Yeah, grandma wants my shiny belt. That was the feud.
That sort of thing. They absolutely could have worked this better. I hope it's not a sign of how we book women moving forward now that Charlotte's back. That I think is going to cause way more dissension than I think they're ready for. That's just my thought.
Yeah, so I know not everyone's a big fan of Charlotte in here, which is okay. How do I put this? I'm going to say this I'm going to say this as politically correct as possible. I don't like the nepotism that was surrounding Charlotte when she got to main roster because of her last name, and we got tired of her being Super Charlotte. However, I do not blame her. I blame the people backstage for letting it get to that point, because I'm pretty sure Charlotte and like people like Becky and to a certain extent Bailey, like the top of your women's division, probably has some sway. But I don't know all the backstage politics. I don't know who's in charge of all of this, but I'm like, the word no is not a bad thing to tell a talent, like, or even if you don't want to say no, be like, I will consider it, but I think we might have to go with something else. But in this case, Tiffany and Charlotte did not help themselves with this feud, with the choices they made character-wise and personal-wise to elevate the feud. And then backstage and creative also did no favors to these women. WrestleMania 41 had a lot of questionable booking choices and story writing for the women, because, again, we're going to talk about this tomorrow evening, but I'm still mad at what opened up night 2. We should have had it later down the line, because I'm like, to me, that was my favorite match of the entire 2 nights of Mania.
You just said what I was going to say. The best
But the fact that had more of a story going along with it, and it was a little bit more interesting, also had its problems because it opened the show. And I am a biased fan because she is my spirit animal. I love her to death. I was kind of very surprised to start seeing Bianca get booed the last couple weeks leading into Mania. But we'll talk about that tomorrow, because we leave Botox Skeletor and her granddaughter for
where'd my butt go?
Exactly. For our main event of night 1, which was a triple threat beat. This was basically a feud and a match that was built on hate. Seth Rollins hates Punk. Punk hates Seth. Punk hates Roman. Roman hates everybody at this point now. Like, this was a match that was built on hate. And as soon as we were told this match, I was like, okay, maybe we'll add the stake of it being a number 1 contendership, something with that. No, it was just a match to set up what we would get at the end, really, and what happened on Monday Night Raw. So,
which I've only heard bits and pieces of. I got to go watch it.
We'll talk about it after this match.
I watched it before this stream, and I can't wait to talk about it.
Yes, because Raw after Mania was actually kind of juicy. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Now, as far as this match goes, I will definitely say that, to me, this was the strongest, like, quote unquote, cinema storyline that we were getting throughout this match. Like, I will say, though, this was not a great wrestling match. It was a good cutscene, like in a video game. This was more like a QTE than an actual, like, I'm in control of the characters 2K game. Like, this was a whole entire set of quick time events that led from one moment to another. This was a great story. This was not the best match of the whole entire weekend or night. I don't think it was bad, but I think when you're looking at who's involved in the ring, I kind of feel bad that Seth couldn't go more than he could have because we know he can. But then we're looking at who he's fighting, and I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. I like the outcome. I thought it was really fun. It created a viral moment, but it wasn't a good wrestling match. So
I'm not disagreeing. I still put this on my matches of the year list to go back and look at for 2025 at the end. Partly because of the narrative, for sure. Partly because of the end result and what happens. Absolutely, right? And the story that they told. And again, the second half of this didn't feel nearly as much like a spot fest or that quick time event thing, like a match on night 2, which drove me crazy. But we'll talk about that when we get there. That one felt a lot like hit AB, hit X, hit AB, hit X. Quick time.
Oh man, we'll talk about that tomorrow because that last match, and I'm quoting Minnie here, really pissed us off at the end of it.
I'll be late tomorrow, but I'll be here in time to be pissed off with y'all. However,
I hope you show up for the Fatal 4-Way because that match was bananas.
Woof. So many things. So again, the narrative going into this, great. The storytelling of this, great. I wonder why they pump the brakes sometimes. And I don't know if it's, I don't want to get hurt. I don't want this. I want that. There's some sequences in there where they really go for it, and it's great. But then they sort of take their time. They let the momentum go down, and then they hold for the camera. They're really selling it to be cinematic to me. I did not hate this. The way I'm actually pretty neutral in this, which is probably a sign of how I don't want to say disappointing. I should be off the rails, right? I picked Punk because I thought that's where the narrative was going, and that makes sense. I like the story and where we went, and apparently because of Raw, I'm gonna like it even more. Like, oh my god, we have stuff to do for now. Paul Heyman is still the best actor in the company. Like, still easy. Still the best actor in the company. It sells everything, does everything beautifully. I think what we wanted and what we got is why we feel the way we feel, right? I don't think it's a bad wrestling match. I think we know what we wanted and what we could have seen. And I think that's the scale that we all have, because we have 10 years since the Shield. We have Seth Punk going back. We have all this stuff going in. So we know what they are and can be. But since it missed, we're going, I think this is the best cardio Punk's had, in my opinion. Like, he went, they were going the whole time. I think Seth had to still slow down because Seth, like you said, Seth didn't go as full Seth as Seth could have. And Roman's Roman. Either you love him or hate him. So it didn't give me that bad vomit taste in my mouth. It's like some people on the internet are like, I can't believe, wow. Because I'm a theater person. So for the theater of it, I'm still, okay, yeah, cool. And I know that's not really a take, yay or nay. So it still just kind of keeps me right in the middle.
No, but I feel like that's a valid take because I also feel the same way. I'm not like some people who thought this was the greatest match ever.
Because well, even like going into the crowd, they went into the crowd. They went into the crowd, and then they came back. It's like, oh, if you're going to the crowd,
they should have just stayed in the crowd for a little bit longer,
right? Let's go for it. Let's go. We're in the crowd. Yeah, cause some havoc, and we're done. Like, okay,
sure, fine.
Okay.
Again,
right.
I feel like that. Yeah. I wasn't be like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest match ever. But I'm also like not on the other side of the spectrum where I thought this was worse. I was like, this was not bad. It was a match designed to set up what the summer and possibly the remainder of 2025 is going to look like in the landscape of like of WWE programming and pay-per-views and stuff like that. That's how I view it. Jesse, I want to come to you next because I know you got thoughts about this. So how'd you feel about this main eventing night one?
No thoughts, smooth brain, nothing sticking. No, I don't try and pay attention to the internet wrestling community because they're all just terrible, and saying that as part of one, I know I'm just a hypocrite. That being said, I really enjoyed this. Did I think it was the best pure wrestling match? No, because Seth works at a much faster rate than Roman and Punk do. Punk is because he's a little bit older. Roman because that's just how Roman works, and he's been able to earn that. However, the story that they told was fantastic, and I did not see the ending coming at all, and I like that. There is something comforting about watching something and knowing what's going to happen with the ending, hence Ring of Honor. But being surprised like this and being surprised in such a way like this, to me, it added so much intrigue and so much enjoyment out of it because it's like, oh, I can't just predict the end of every one of these. I don't know what's happening next. Now I'm excited to see what's going to happen. Now I need to watch the programs that these guys are on to see how this is going to play out further. So I really enjoyed it for that fact.
I think that's the thing. And I'm just picking back on what you're saying. I had fun watching it. I wasn't quite Charlotte Tiffany watching it and be like, oh man. Okay.
No, that one I got up and went to the bathroom, did the dishes, and then came back.
I was like, oh, where are we go? Right. This was like, oh, this is still fun though. This is still like, all right, cool.
And
there were
Punk
moments
had a great entrance, and
Yeah.
Seth's gear was over the top ridiculous as we expect. And
right.
Roman was Roman, but I got to tell you,
Roman was
those black and white sneakers that are probably $600 were sharp. Those were really
Jordans?
nice.
Yeah.
His shoe game always be kind of kicking though. I was like, yo.
Mikey, if that pun was intended, is fully supported.
It was.
Shoe game be kicking.
His shoe
But
game
no,
be
like,
kicking.
I enjoyed the whole thing, and then for me, I was getting like the deep nostalgia vibes when they did the Punk cut in the beginning, that promo video. When they did his old theme music, "This Fire Burns" from Killswitch Engage, I hadn't heard that in years, and like I had that nostalgia wave go down my back. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm in for this. This is gonna be fun no matter what it is.
See, when you give budget to promos and video packages, they are actually really great. I love it. It's great. Yeah, I do have to say, Seth won best outfit of night one. He went from being an extra in the Lady Gaga Abracadabra video to CrossFit Jesus with the flamethrower. It was great.
Call him CrossFit Jesus.
You tell me I'm wrong. He was dressed in all white. He had the angelic light.
No, wait. It wasn't CrossFit Jesus. It was the rich Southern Baptist pastor.
That is not Jacoby Watts. Leave it alone.
No,
Aw.
honestly, Seth Rollins was just in his all white outfit. I was just like, yes, you win, CrossFit Jesus. You win. I would like to go on record to say that I am happy that I saw Seth winning because, and when we did our predictions, the whole entire build up to this match was so focused more on Punk being able, finally getting his WrestleMania moment, and then Roman ready to take out anybody and everybody, that Seth kind of was on the back burner a little bit. But now we know why, especially of what happened on Monday Night Raw, which we'll get into in a quick second. But I want to go to Kilt really quickly if he has any thoughts or additional takes on this main event for night one before we get into Raw.
This really probably could have been the middle match of night one, and we could have put we could have put Jay and Gunter at the end and given them more time to have a lot more fun and set
and
a
get
bigger
that crowd
tone.
to go home happy
And
with that.
I think that would have been better. Unlike the Charlotte Tiffany match, I didn't need Skeletor talking to me to make me laugh and forget how bad it was. It's so bad. But no, I actually did enjoy this. I didn't see Paul Heyman crossing both CM Punk and Roman. That was beyond amazing. Also, why did he have to jiggle Roman's balls like that? That was kind of weird.
Paul Heyman was on one. I was like, what is happening?
No, it wasn't a twist. It was a hold on.
Yeah.
He was playing Pong in between the legs. I was like, what? He's doing
His balls are probably big enough to be a speed bag. So,
oh my gosh, Professor.
Rewatching this and going through, I'm also taken by the narrative of Seth's trying to get Roman on his side. Seth's trying to say, join me. Let's do it right now. We'll do this right now. You and me together. And Roman chooses no.
He chooses
so just
the violence.
The theater of this. Brilliant. And I think part of me, and I agree with Jesse too. There's the nostalgia thing of I'm seeing them years ago, right? And maybe that's just my own biases that I got to check, because a part of me is like, I wanted this. I need to check myself a little, but this was still fun theater. And the folks that are trying to crush it, I think they just want to crush all of it. Simon Miller brought up some great points on this one too, like how much fun it was and what happened and the crowd's reaction. Could you imagine if this started night one? The buzz for the rest of the night. That going up to Jay and Gunther at the end.
But I know I have an idea as to why they had this be the main event. First off, to fulfill the CM Punk getting to main event WrestleMania that he's always wanted to do. Great, check that off of his list. But my theory is that they're trying to move themselves away from all the controversy surrounding Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan. So now that Roman is the most main events in WrestleMania history, like he's performed in most of them, that knocks Hulk Hogan off of it. And we get our match tomorrow night where Cena takes the title record from Flair. That's distancing themselves again from the very controversial figures. So as a business practice, it makes sense considering that we talk about titles and records all the time in this role of entertainment.
That is very true, Jesse.
Professor, you're muted again.
I'm sorry. Because Randy's in there too, right? Because there's Roman for most main events. There's Randy at 20, whatever consecutive, something like that, right?
20
and
years.
Cena as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So well, I mean, since we're talking about Cena and Randy, let's just move on to what happened the Monday night post Mania Raw, because we watched it last night after we got done with the reviews that we had for Stand and Deliver and Effie's Big Gay Brunch. Raw was fire last night. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it was so good. Okay, first of all, the matches that we actually got were really great. Let's talk about, well, because a lot of the stuff happened in matches, so let's talk about what happened first in terms match wise, which was Liv and Raquel winning their tag team championships back from Lyra and Becky. So tonight on NXT, Liv and Raquel will be defending against Gigi and Tatum, who won the number one contenders match at Stand and Deliver for this match tonight. But let's talk about the real talking point. Becky turned on Lyra and she snapped and beat her up like multiple times in the ring, which I'm like, yes, give Lyra a really deep feud with the person who trained her. Let's go. Finally, Lyra gets an actual strong opponent for the Women's Intercontinental Championship scene. No shade to everybody else who Lyra has defended it against, but now we have a good story for Lyra and Becky.
So I'll talk more about this when we get to that. I don't like the concept. You know what? No, I should just say it for tomorrow about the double champion. You know, we've got IC title now going for the tag titles, but
yeah, we'll talk about that.
Probably better suited for tomorrow.
Well, we'll talk about it tomorrow, but I will preface by saying I think we're probably going to agree on this, Jesse. It made no sense for Liv and Raquel to lose at Mania and then get it back the next night. It kind of was a little bit weird. But
it made no sense to give Lyra the IC title if you're going to give her the tag titles. Why didn't we put it on Dakota?
Yeah, okay. We'll talk about that tomorrow because I have feelings about it. But so Becky turned heel-ish, and her and Lyra Seema are going to be feud. That has me excited. Next, Io basically has an open challenge because she beat pretty much the top two women outside of her on the Raw roster, which is, she ain't wrong. She beat Bianca and Rhea at Mania, but she wants to still fight other people. So she has an open challenge of some sort. And then this was not on my bingo card, but we had the NXT Women's Champion, Stephanie Vaquer, answer that. And then we get a match. I'm like, oh my God, this is a dream match that I always wanted. I didn't think we were going to get it this soon. And normally I don't like interferences that cause DQs because we got a DQ ending. This match ends in a double disqualification because Roxanne Perez comes in and sticks her nose in it. And then Julia comes in and then they both beat up Io and Stephanie. But then Rhea Ripley, mommy, comes out to say both of them, but also reminding Io that she still wants to get her championship back. I'm like, yo, I'm not gonna lie, this WWE women's division across the three brands is kind of stacked right now. I was like, oh my gosh. So I was like, I love this segment. I love me some women's wrestling. And then Dominic actually having his first title defense, which is we saw the return of JD McForehead, as I call him.
I thought it was JD Don't Google me.
Yeah, don't Google the name. However, I will say that I am happy to see him recover because punctured lungs are nothing to be, are like not fun to have. Like, Oh, but Dominic versus Penta was really great. But let's talk about the two biggest promos to come out of it: what opened and what closed the show. So, opening the show, John Cena on the mic, being a consummate butthole, being an ass to people, talking about paranormal relationships. I was like, ooh, parasocial relationships. I was like, ooh. And so he basically is like, I'm holding this title hostage. I'm going home. I'm the last real champ. You ain't going to see me. And then he gets an RKO from Randy Orton. I'm like, there's your Backlash match right there. It's fair because we only have 2 weeks of Backlash. So we got to start putting stuff on the card like now. But it's crazy. Never in my wildest dreams would I would see a heel John Cena versus a kind of face Orton, which is crazy to me. I'm like, whoa, never that I imagined. It's great being a wrestling fan in 2025. I'm gonna open it up to the panel. What did y'all think about Cena's opening promo and the fact that more than likely we are getting Cena and Orton at Backlash in 2 weeks?
I didn't see it, but I heard about it. I think it's interesting. I don't think they're going to have him drop the title just like that. It'd be fascinating to see what they're going to do if they just want to give Randy more belt time, but in St. Louis, which is fine.
That's where he's from too.
Yeah. So I think they're going to be more shenanigans. Probably. I think Cena's going to be that type of heel champion, which Cena is doing perfectly. Cena's having so much fun. And it's probably something he's always wanted to do, but never had the chance to. So there's a woman at work over at the college who I've never met until the other day when I saw her wearing a WrestleMania shirt. And I was talking to her about it. Apparently she went when it was in New Orleans and we had a whole conversation and what her picks were. And she was yelling at me yesterday as I came out of the building. She was running to her car, but she stopped to yell at me. Hey, how about that John Cena? Oh my God. Like yelling throughout this courtyard. And we were talking all the trash. It was amazing. So I'm intrigued. We'll see. Randy needs something to do. Why not run it back?
I'm here for it.
I think my favorite part about, again, I didn't get to watch Raw, but I think my favorite part about the whole Cena thing and him, the match and him taking the title and the whole scrum afterwards was people complaining like, oh, he ruined wrestling. Like, he said he was going to. Why is anyone surprised?
I feel like people have selective memories when it comes to certain things, but I 100% agree with you, Jesse.
And people were, folks were going crushing him, saying like, I've always hated John Cena. And now I kind of like John Cena now that it's like, no. You don't get both. You don't get to.
If I can get on my soapbox really quick, I'm so tired of the flipper flappers that is the fandom sometimes. I'm like, y'all wanted to see Cena heel for the longest time. And now that you get what you want, you're going to complain about it? I was like, get the
same people who yelled for 20 years, you can't wrestle, are now mad that he turned heel and broke the hearts of children. Shut up. Come on. You don't get both.
This is amazing, and this is a fun way for Cena to end his in-ring career. Like, come on now. Like, it's fantastic. I love it. Now
he doesn't have to make a wish for the rest of his life. He could be a heel, and he can get some of his life back, and nobody wants him anymore.
And he'll continue to be Peacemaker and be a complete dick, which is fantastic. So, that's what opened the show. Let's talk about what closed this, because I was intrigued. So, Seth comes out. People are, to no surprise to me, there are some people booing Seth, but everyone's behind him. I was like, you know what? Seth right now is entering the villain era, the villain trope of, I was like, look, you're the villain. We all know it. But it's kind of scary that I kind of agree with some of your points. I'm like, he is the justified villain. I'm like, oh, this is about to eat for however long we get this. So we don't even get that much because Heyman gets on the mic, but then we get interrupted by Punk, who wants to come and fight everybody, but he gets, curb stomp for his troubles. Then the stupid logos come out, and Adolfo and Minnie were like, all right, that was it. I was like, nope, because I have been fooled by that logo before. We are not leaving until it goes fade to black. And then Seth is like architecting in the ring with his arms hand out. And then Roman Reigns music hits. We get a chaotic brawl. Punk tries to get in again, but also gets curb stopped again. Roman gets laid out to find out that Braun Breaker has joined Heyman and Seth. I was like, okay, now you have my intrigue. And I literally screamed at the television, oh my gosh, this is the beginnings of the War Games teams. Literally, I would be this would be nuts if this was not going to lead into Team Seth versus Team Punk / Roman at Survivor Series in November, which is in San Diego, which I'm hoping to go to because that'd be fantastic. It's going to be cold as hell outside because it's at Petco Park in the middle of November. So it's going California cold is different, but still.
So I've got to take the lowbrow joke here because it's in my Legends contract. It's in my title. Excuse me, it's in my one of my clauses, right, Mikey?
I mean,
so does that make Seth Rollins?
I guess
to quote Pat McAfee, does that make Seth Rollins the architect of the brick shithouse?
That's a good line. It's a good line.
So good.
I think it's. I'll say this carefully because you all know more than I do. I think on some of the stuff. This could be among the most powerful factions we've had in contemporary WWE. You got Heyman, Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and whoever else gets brought into this thing. I'm not saying it goes full NWO when everybody joins or whatever that thing is, right? But this has the makings to be huge. And what a ballsy choice, because now it gives both CM Punk and Roman something to fight against. You have a KO in the wings who's going to have surgery. Who knows a year from now where you could put him in the middle of all this other stuff. I'm just thinking way down the line. You have a heel faction here. The Bloodline ran its course, and I don't mean to compare it necessarily, but the Bloodline was, for 2 years, we went, I'm done, I hate it. This is something kind of new and fresh and interesting as a heel faction. There's some potential here.
Who would you bring in?
Ooh, let's play that game really quickly.
I have 2 ideas. First one is not as controversial. It's just like I could see them doing well as their heavy. Not that they need a heavy with Braun Breaker in there, but Braun and Braun, just because I want to see the hilarity of R-Truth trying to get their names right.
Oh,
Braun Strowman, I think, would be a good fit in there. But I think you could go further, and very controversial character, but a Paul Heyman guy, and bring Brock back.
Oh,
this kind of opens the door to bring Brock back if you want to.
That's what I thought was honestly going to happen. I didn't even get to say this when we were talking about the last match of night 1, but I wasn't expecting the ending because the way I had kind of fantasy booked it was that Punk and Roman were both done. They fed up. They walk out. They're essentially they're done with Paul. They give up. Seth gets mad and he goes to attack Paul, and then Brock returns and takes out everybody, and he grabs Paul and they leave.
That'd be wild. Kilt, you had a thought. Your hand was there.
Yeah. So my thought, interesting enough, is this kind of whispers almost like the Authority. As a heel faction. Now, granted, it's going to be better because it doesn't have Vince. And anywho, I think this will be really great. You can probably pull in a lot of the good talent that we have on Raw or wherever they decide to act, especially when the draft happens, wherever they decide to put it. We've been talking about Judgment Day breaking up. And yes, JD McDonough's back, but it kind of hints that that Finn Balor might split. I would like to see Finn join this new faction with Seth because it would be like the dirty player. In any classic D&D trope, you need a rogue. You need the sneaky bastard in your party to do some sneaky shit.
That's an interesting thought too. I wonder what.
I see that as Seth though.
Now Seth, he's an architect, so he is the kind of not necessarily the brains per se, because you have the wise man, you have Paul Heyman, who is a planner. He's the tactician, but so Seth is kind of like the figurehead. He's the I almost said the Lord Draken, but he's not that bad. he's the villain, so to speak. He is the BBEG, and then you have Paul Heyman, who's his advisor slash, like, a tactician, his planner, his speaker. It's almost like a good PR person, a PR person for a bad company that makes things look good. Like a good, not a good lawyer, but like a lawyer that is good at what they do.
I mean, you got Naomi hanging out over there.
You could pull Naomi in for a female talent.
I mean, you
have a lot.
You got some options there if you're trying to build just an ensemble heel. I mean, you don't need 100 people, like I said, but there's some folks there that you could leverage this.
Honestly, you definitely have options, and it will be interesting because, again, we know that the draft, as much as we hate it, is coming. So we'll see who ends up on Raw and who ends up on SmackDown.
When's the draft?
I don't know. I would say probably after Backlash, probably towards the end of May. So we'll see.
I don't mind the draft. Personally.
I don't mind the draft either. It's just that
it's fun.
I don't mind the draft, but it's got to mean something, right? It just
they
comes
move
off
people
as
over,
arbitrary.
and then we end up having people switch back. Okay, so hear me out about this, right? So we have Seth, Braun, and Heyman, right? So everybody has mentioned like different factions things. We know that this current WWE loves to recreate things that worked in the past. Like we've had nods to NWO, and of course, we, as unsuccessful as it is right now, we have the Latino World Order, all that good stuff. So they like to play the greatest hits with the modern fans. So as soon as I saw Braun, Seth, and Paul Heyman at the very end of the show, I'm like, where have I seen this makeup before? And then it hit me. This looks like the beginning of Evolution 2.0. So you have... So now, while he doesn't wrestle like Flair did, Flair and Paul Heyman played more of the managerial roles with Evolution, right? So Seth is the Triple H, who is the leader of this quote-unquote faction. I believe Braun is your Dave Batista, who is going to be the powerhouse. But you need the young up-and-comer to fill in the young Randy Orton role, right? As the newer kid on the block who has a lot of potential. Now, despite what everybody feels about him and just his nonsense in general and how much he's had like a lackluster run, there is currently a superstar on Raw I would bring in, and people are going to hate me for saying this, but I say you bring on Austin Theory to fill in that role. You break him away from Grayson Waller, and you have somebody who can be in the mid card to go after that United States or Intercontinental Championship. I know, Jesse, I know you don't like him, but I actually would put Austin in here because if you aren't going to put him back with DIY and reform the way, I think Austin Theory on Raw is pretty a good choice. Give him something to do. And then with this group, you can have built him up to be the single star that he was supposed to be. Now, I'm not saying it's the best choice.
I have a follow-up to do the deep evolution cut here, okay? You can add Austin, whatever his name is. You can add him into the Mark Jindrak spot. And then when he gets dropped off, they have the chance to do the funniest thing, and you add Dirty Dominic Mysterio in there.
So that would be fun, but I think we're going to see Dom become the official leader of Judgment Day. And not to say they're going to go full face, but I think Dominic got, we'll talk about it tomorrow more. The crowd was so behind Dominic the whole entire match and cheered for him when he won, which is crazy.
And this is just fantasy booking, me talking out loud. Say you build this up to make it something all powerful and we run everything, kind of like Triple H and Stephanie McMahon had when it was the Authority and all that stuff, right? I think that's around the time that I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I wasn't really watching at the time, so I don't know all the plot lines. I know Randy's in there somewhere. I know there's a lot going on. I think this opens the door to get all these other big groups and factions you're not using a chance to fight against someone, right? Where the Wyatt's been, some of these other big power groups and pseudo war games teams that you have. It gives you options creating a faction here. Of course, we don't know.
The Wyatt Six were written in originally for WrestleMania 41 to go against the Judgment Day, and then JD got hurt,
right?
And Bo got hurt, so that kind of fell apart, which I was really disappointed.
That is
But we'll talk about
disappointing.
that tomorrow night.
Wild
Yeah,
stuff.
so
I think it's cool.
It really is. And honestly, like, to kind of wrap it up, the Monday Night Raw after Mania was fantastic. It definitely was better. So it was good. Alrighty. We need to get up on out of here because we've been here for a little bit. So really quickly, thank you so much for tuning into our night one review. And tomorrow we'll be back again with, well, myself, Kilts, and Jesse, and maybe the professor showing up a little bit later. But before we sign off for the evening, to kind of quickly remind you of what the rest of this week looks like, because we are on a special schedule, not on our regular. So tomorrow night, of course, you have our night 2 WrestleMania review. So look at those fire graphics. So tomorrow night you get a double dose at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. We do night 2. And then if you are a night owl, like some of us are here, you could come on over at 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, as me and Andrew will be reviewing the Progress Wrestling show that happened over the weekend. We weren't originally going to schedule it, but after receiving a nice little email from Progress Wrestling themselves telling us to keep up the good work, I'm like, well, shit, now we kind of have to. Just added to the schedule, thanks to a conversation today, Adolfo will be on Thursday covering this past week's CMLL action as we gear up for this Friday's Viernes Espectacular, where we will crown a new Universal Champion, which is great. And then we end WrestleMania Hell Week on Friday with the TNA crew to review TNA's Unbreakable pay-per-view. We got a lot happening this week, and it's fantastic. But it is late for some of us. We got to get up on out of here. So thank you so much for tuning in to our review of Night 1 WrestleMania and the Raw after Mania. Stay tuned tomorrow for Night 2, and we're also going to dissect all the news that came out of Mania, especially WWE acquiring a certain Lucha Libre Federation out of Mexico that I want to discuss with everybody tomorrow night. And all the listen, WWE just announced their slated, like what the rest of the summer is going to look like. And we're going to talk about all that too. But from us here at Wrestle Watch and the rest of the BC WrestlePod family, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, stay Bi-Conic, and more importantly than anything, you always deserve to finish your story. We will see you tomorrow, same time, for Night 2 of Mania review. But until then, sayonara, adios, and ta-ta for now.